This is a special report from the Human Error News Network. The Francis Scott Key Bridge, a crucial piece of American infrastructure, just gone. A catastrophe that will cost billions. But this wasn't some random act of nature. No, this was a failure of systems. And tonight, we're not asking who is to blame. We're asking what we can learn.
Just look at this number. $5.2 billion. That's the estimated price tag to rebuild. It's a failure on a scale that's almost impossible to wrap your head around.
But what if I told you this entire disaster, all that twisted steel, the economic fallout, the tragic loss of life, what if it all started with something so small it was basically invisible, hiding in plain sight for years, just waiting?
Okay, look closely. On the left, you see a wire connected the right way. On the right, that's the wire from the ship. The difference is a tiny piece of plastic, a labeling band, pushed down just a couple of millimeters too far. That's it. That one little mistake prevented a solid electrical connection. And that was the spark that lit the fuse.
You know, this whole thing isn't really just about a bridge or a ship. It's about how you handle failure inside your own company. It's about a trap that, honestly, we all fall into.
So let's get real for a second. When something goes wrong on your watch, a project fails, the numbers tank, what is the very first question that echoes through the boardroom? Whose fault was this, right? The pressure is on to find the problem, fix it, and, well, find the person responsible. It's a gut reaction.
And that's where we get stuck. Because this quote right here says it all. In any crisis, every leader faces this fundamental choice. You can point a finger or you can open up the playbook and learn. But you absolutely cannot do both.
See, finding someone to blame, it feels like a solution, doesn't it? It's neat, it's tidy, and it lets everybody else breathe a sigh of relief. But it's also an illusion, a dangerous one, because it lets the real problems, the deep, systemic flaws, stay hidden in the shadows, just waiting for their next chance to cause chaos.
So to really understand what learning looks like, we're going to do what the NTSB did and just follow the evidence. Forget about scapegoats. We're putting on our investigator hats because this story is so much bigger than any one person.
The first thing you learn when you dig into these things is that major disasters are never a single event. They're a chain reaction. It's like a line of dominoes. Several different safety nets have to fail one after the other for the whole thing to come crashing down.
So here's domino number one, the installation error. Years ago, when the ship was being built, an electrician just pushed that little plastic band a bit too far down the wire. That tiny change made the wire just thick enough that it couldn't sit properly in the terminal. And just like that, a ticking time bomb was set, completely hidden from view. Now for domino number two, the inspection failure. And this is the part that gets me. Just 3 days before the accident, that exact part of the ship passed a standard inspection. The report says it all. No abnormalities were reported. But the normal checks, looking at it, even giving the wires a wiggle, could never have found this kind of problem. The very system meant to find the failure was completely blind to it.
And that brings us to the final domino, the procedural failure. When things went sideways and the power went out, the crew needed a clear plan. But the ship's official rulebook for emergencies, its safety management system, had a huge gap. There was no clear written procedure for what to do with these critical breakers in this exact situation. Hardware, inspection, and procedure, every single layer of protection failed.
Okay, so if blame is the trap, what's the escape plan? Well, the NTSB's recommendations actually give us a fantastic framework. Let's talk about how we can build a system that's actually resilient to human error.
First things first, we have to get way better at finding these little hidden time bombs. We need to be able to detect the problems that our normal checks and balances just can't see. So, what did the NTSB suggest? Something surprisingly simple, an infrared camera. That loose wire connection would have been giving off heat, and a thermal camera would have seen it glowing like a beacon. It's a perfect example of how the right piece of tech can take a risk that's totally invisible and make it pop right out. But, just finding errors isn't the whole game. The next level is prevention. The real goal is to design systems where these kinds of errors are incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to make in the first place. And prevention has to start at the very beginning. The NTSB told the company that makes the part to add a warning to their instructions. They told the shipyard they needed to update their training. See, this isn't just about fixing one ship. It's about making sure this same mistake can't happen on any ship, anywhere.
And the final piece of this puzzle is correction. This is all about the system itself, the organizational rulebook that makes sure everyone knows what to do and holds the entire process together.
The NTSB's recommendation here was straight to the point. Close the loophole. They told the ship's operator, you need to write a clear, mandatory policy for how to handle these breakers. No ambiguity. Because a good safety system isn't just some binder sitting on a shelf. It's a living, breathing tool that people rely on when seconds count.
So, after all that, what does this massive, multi-billion-dollar disaster actually mean for you and your team? Well, it gives us a really clear blueprint for how to move forward.
Here it is. This is your roadmap. Number 1, stop looking for a person to blame and start looking at your process. Number 2, get the tools that let you find problems before they find you. 3, design your procedures to make the right way the easy way. And finally, number 4, make your safety management system the most important dynamic tool in your entire organization.
We really believe that understanding how things fail is the absolute first step to building a world that's safer and more resilient for everyone. And that leaves us with just one last question for you to think about.
Right now, somewhere inside your company, your next potential failure is quietly leaving clues. It's in your processes, it's in your equipment, it's in your day-to-day operations. So the question is, are you building an organization that's ready to assign blame after the fact, or are you building a culture that's learning how to listen to the warnings before it's too late?